by the Montana Television Network. Montana This Morning continues on Montana's News Leader.
New research may change which sunscreen you buy. I'm Meg Oliver, New York City, with which SPF protects the best.
One of Bozeman's premier bed and breakfasts is shutting its doors. I'm Medeiros Babb, and coming up, I'll let you know how the owners are saying goodbye.
Well, good morning, 6:30 on this Memorial Day Monday. Chet Lehman with you. Missy O'Malley is off. Matt Elwell has our forecast in a moment. Meantime, for the second time in nearly as many years, a Baltimore community ravaged with flash floods. A state of emergency was declared on Sunday for Ellicott City, and the National Weather Service says more rain is expected. CNN's John Lawrence has our story.
A deluge of brown water devours Ellicott City, Maryland, overtaking vehicles like they were toy cars and destroying the area.
There were trees sticking out everywhere and cars standing up straight, totally upright everywhere. Buildings wiped out, windows gone, inventory from the stores everywhere, just all wiped out.
Ellicott City is about 12 miles west of Baltimore in the valley of the Patapsco River. On Sunday, the river rose nearly 18 feet within 2 hours, reaching a record high of just over 24 feet.
I actually know a lot of people that work down here, and a lot of them were trapped on like the second and third story floors because they couldn't get out.
Local officials say this situation rivals a 2016 flooding that killed 2 people and left the area severely damaged.
It's just devastating because people have their lives tied up in this and went through a heck of a lot and came back, and now they're starting all over again, and it's pretty devastating.
Rescue crews are on the scene, and residents of the downtown area were urged to evacuate. Howard County Executive Alan Kittleman says resources will be available for people who want to rebuild once the flooding ends. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
Fortunately, no fatalities have been reported thus far, but massive amounts of rain in such a short period of time.
Amazing.
Again, we had talked about it earlier. Part of that is there's no place for that water to go in the city.
We've been adding concrete for decades, and now where's that water go? It doesn't sink into the ground. It runs through the middle of Main Street.
Yeah, when you're talking about 6 inches of rain in a 2-3 hour period of time, you just can't handle it.
Really difficult. Luckily, we have some rivers that are able to handle a lot of that water, but we're still seeing those numbers go up. A lot of warnings across a good portion of western and central Montana, including western Montana as well. We'll be watching those. We'll talk more about the numbers along with our rivers for the area. Temperatures into the 40s and 50s this morning. We're starting out with a little bit of cloud cover. We're going to see some sunshine early, but we'll be watching the clouds thicken up as you head later into the day. Good chance that we could see a few afternoon thunder showers picking up for the Bozeman area as well as Butte, but I don't think it's a washout for your Memorial Day holiday. We'll, of course, talk more in depth about your forecast in just a few minutes.
Thank you, Matt. 6:33 on this Memorial Day. One of Bozeman's oldest bed and breakfasts closing its doors. MTN's Medeiros Babb tells us why the owner had to shut down.
It's meant to be a bed and breakfast. Unfortunately, nobody can afford to buy it and operate it as a bed and breakfast anymore.
Frankie Muller has owned the Voss Inn Bed and Breakfast with her husband since 1989. The Mullers loved the unique and rich history surrounding the inn.
This building was built in 1883. That means that it is around 135 years old.
Muller says that in the 90s, business was booming and often the B&B was at 80% occupancy. She says this year business has been the slowest it has ever been.
Now it's pathetic. Airbnb has really cut a chunk out of our market.
She says it is no longer possible to make a profit, forcing her and her husband to sell the building and everything inside. Paulette Pittman lived down a couple of blocks from the B&B when she was a kid. She bought a mirror from the Voss Inn to take home.
I am a sentimental fool, and so it drives my husband nuts that I have all kinds of things from our childhood, and so it's fun to have something from the Voss Inn.
I, in particular, have been having a kind of a hard time of it because we both love this house, and I put 30 years into my garden out front and around the house, and that's going to be really hard to leave.
But the Mullers know it is time to let go and move on. They say the next owner plans on using the building for a business. In Bozeman, Medeiros Babb, MTN News.
Now, Medeiros tells us the Mullers are set to close the sale of the inn on June 15th. There will be a silent auction of everything in the B&B later today. Shifting gears a bit, for years there has been debate about whether using sunscreen over SPF 50 really makes a difference. Now a new study suggests you may want to go higher for better protection. CBS's Meg Oliver has more.
Let's go.
First-time mom Jessica Goldstein keeps 5-month-old Eloise out of the sun as much as possible.
I want to make sure that she's completely protected. I don't want her to get any sort of skin cancer.
Some people find choosing a sunscreen overwhelming with so many options. Now, new research suggests higher SPF sunscreens may be your best bet to avoid sunburn. A recent study in the Journal of the American Academy of Dermatology found that SPF 100 was more protective than SPF 50. Dr. Daryl Regal is one of the study's authors.
This was a real use study where people actually used it as opposed to testing it in the lab. Because people under-apply sunscreen, the higher SPF is more forgiving. And that's really what the advantage was. For the average user, they put on a little less or they skip a little bit, they're still getting strong protection.
Researchers compared SPF 50 versus 100 on skiers in Colorado. The study found the SPF 50 side of the face was 11 times more likely to burn compared to the SPF 100 side. Dr. Regal advises choosing a sunscreen that's at least SPF 30 or higher.
You want to look for the words broad spectrum, because that means it protects ultraviolet A and ultraviolet B waves. You want something that's water resistant 80 minutes. That's the maximum of protection.
Although Jessica chooses shade over sun.
As I got older and started really understanding what could happen, I realized that I need to be putting on sunscreen.
She now plans to reach for the highest SPF available under the sun. Meg Oliver, CBS News, New York.
Meg tells us that study was funded by Johnson & Johnson Consumer Incorporated. Dermatologists also recommend reapplying sunscreen at least every 2 hours. Back here in the Treasure State, this week under the big sky, the husband and wife team of La Chatelaine Chocolate Company in Bozeman take us inside their kitchen, show us how they make their creative chocolate creations.
Ganache is simply an emulsification of cream, chocolate, and butter. That's all it is. But you have to bring it together again at the right temperature for it to have that toothsome quality. Like when you bite into the chocolate, you want to see your teeth marks.
Some flavors will conflict with chocolate. The big thing is to find the right chocolate. % of the cocoa in the chocolate. Most of our chocolate that we use in our ganache are 70–74%. But we have some that we use a 61%, for example, because it's just chocolate is too strong and it competes too much with the flavor. So we have to tone it down. There'll be some chocolate that you take both in your mouth and you want to spit out instantly. It's so disgusting. And then after that, a handful of tries. The one that, you know, it worked. It was just pairing perfect.
We are very picky on the manufacturers we use of chocolate.
We get mostly French chocolate. We have some Swiss chocolate, Italian chocolate, but it's mainly French. For the other side ingredients, we try to keep it as much local as possible. Herbs or different fruits. We order organic cream. It's special order every week. I'm always checking that the finished product is impeccable. I always taste the chocolate every day. That's not difficult. I'm a chocoholic for sure. We've been growing every year, but we've always been very clear on one thing, is that no matter how we grow, the quality of our product will never change. We have to be always mindful that no matter what, the quality will be the same.
Quality chocolates from right here in Southwest Montana. Next week, Under the Big Sky returns to Havre, where Enel sports bras have transformed the lives of their customers. We're going to take a quick break here on Montana This Morning. When we come back, we travel with a resident of the lava zone in Hawaii as he returns to his home and the stark reality of life in the Leilani Estates community today. But first, here's what's coming up at 7 on CBS This Morning.
Ahead on CBS This Morning, we're in Maryland with damage from flash flooding and along the Gulf Coast where people are evacuating ahead of the first named storm of the season. And we'll find out what it takes to capture the stunning images of the Hawaiian volcano. We'll see you at 7.